School of Management Studies, IGNOU presents an audiobook on the course MMPC-001 Management Functions and Organizational Processes for MBA program. Presenting Block 3 Managerial Processes Part-2. Unit-8 Leading and Motivating Part-2.
Leadership theories. Trait theory. This theory, as described by Kelly in 1974, attempts to classify what personal characteristics such as physical personality and mental are associated with leadership success. Trait theory relies on research that relates various traits to the success of a leader. A lengthy list of traits has been made to describe an effective leader in terms of certain characteristics. A broad classification of 6 categories of traits are: Number 1. Physical characteristics of the leader such as age, height and weight. Number 2. Background characteristics such as education, social status, mobility and experience. Number 3. Intelligence, ability, judgment and knowledge. Number 4. Personality, aggressiveness, alertness, dominance, decisiveness, enthusiasm, extroversion, independence, self-confidence and authoritarianism. Number 5. Task-oriented characteristics like achievement needs, responsibility, initiative and persistence. And social characteristics like supervisory ability, cooperativeness, popularity, prestige, tact and diplomacy. These characteristics, according to some people, are considered valid indicators of successful leaders, but if you compare leaders by various physical personality and intelligence traits, you will find very little agreement on these. Some findings point to the fact that leaders are intelligent individuals, but they do not provide any clue as to whether leaders are brighter than their followers or are as close to them in intelligence. Again, some of the personality traits are overlapping with each other. Therefore, you need to be cautious in stating personality or any other characteristic as a cause of successful leadership. You must ask the questions: who is a successful leader? Is he far superior physically? Is he far brighter? Is he more mature as a person? Is he more motivated to achieve his goal? Does he have more consideration for his followers, etc.? Some of the traits may describe a successful leader, but predicting successful leaders on the basis of traits alone is not a correct approach. The followers have a significant effect on the job accomplished by the leader. Trait theory completely ignores the followers and the situations that also help a leader to be successful. Secondly, we should also weigh in our own mind which of the objectives, confident or independent or intelligent, is relatively more important in becoming a successful leader. You may observe one or all the mentioned traits as important in a successful leader, whereas your friend may feel that an enthusiastic, aggressive and authoritarian person is a good leader. To be more objective, traits of the person as well as demand of the situation together determine the effectiveness of the leader. Group and exchange theories of leadership. These theories, as reported by Hollander and Julian in 1969, state that the leaders provide more benefits or regards than burden or cost for followers who help him achieve the goal of the organization. There must be a positive exchange between the leader and followers in order for group goals to be accomplished. The leader can give rewards to his followers in the form of praise or pay increase or promotion for accomplishment of the group goal or task. This has positive impact on attitudes, satisfaction and performance of the followers. In return, they respect the leader and give due regard for the status and esteem and believe in the heightened influence. As you are already aware that a leader emphasizes initiating structure when followers do not perform very well, increased emphasis on consideration when the followers do a job. In return, the perception of followers of his being an effective leader increases. Hence, the leader and the followers mutually affect each other. Social learning theories. This theory was given by Bandura in 1977 and states that there is a continuous reciprocal interaction between person, environment, and behavior. Person and environment function in conjunction with the behavior itself and reciprocally interact to determine behavior. A person, through his actions, produces the environmental conditions that affect behavior in a reciprocal fashion. The experience generated by behavior also partly determines what a person becomes and can do. This in turn affects the subsequent behavior. The theory is called social learning theory because individuals learn in an environment in the process of interacting with each other, which is a social process. You will appreciate the application of this theory in understanding the behavior of a leader and the continuous reciprocal interaction between the person or leader's cognitions and environment, including subordinates and their needs, experiences, objectives in the organization, abilities, skills, energy performance, etc., known as contingencies that regulate their behavior. The three aspects of this theory of leadership assume that the leader knows how behavior is controlled by various needs, situations, and experiences that undergoes. The leader works with the subordinates to discover what those needs, situations, and experience. The leader and the subordinates jointly attempt to discover ways in which they can manage their individual behavior to produce mutually satisfying as well as organizationally productive outcomes. In this approach, the leader and the subordinates have a negotiable and interactive relationship. They are continuously aware of how they can modify or influence each other's behavior by giving the rewards or holding back the performance respectively. Managerial grid theory. Leaders can be oriented towards both tasks and persons. This theory by Blake and Mouton in 1978 has a popular application of both task and person orientation. According to this theory, leaders are most effective when they achieve a high and balanced concern for people and for tasks. Contingency theory of leadership. Regarding this theory, Fiedler in 1967 states that a leader may become effective if the situation is favorable in three ways. These are good leader-member relations showing acceptance of the leader by the group, details of the task spelled out to the leader's position, and a great deal of authority and power is formally attributed to the leader's position. With these three favorable situations in the style of functioning, a leader will be effective. When the situation is very favorable or very unfavorable to the leader, the task-oriented leader is effective. When the situation is moderately favorable to the leader, the person-oriented leader is effective. Here is an example of moderately favorable position to person-oriented leader. A leader with good interpersonal relationships may be developing a new policy that will have great impact on the work group. The situation is relatively vague but moderately favorable. The task is not very well defined and the leader-member relation is good. The leader is likely to be effective as he would likely to consult the members and consider their thoughts and ideas. When the new policy gets approved, the situation becomes more favorable. Path-goal leadership theory. This theory by House in 1971 states that the leader smooths out the path towards goal and provides rewards for achieving them. As a leader, you should understand the needs of the people and their desire to work or behave in a way that accomplishes goals that satisfy those needs. This theory is based on a situation of the mentioned kind. If you know the need of the person and the desire to work and is able to accomplish the work, you can reward to make the person feel happy and satisfied. In essence, you are doing three things. 1. You are motivating the members of the group by clarifying the path to personal rewards that result from attaining work goals. You have thus fixed on the job and made to see that the person's performance can lead to positive or negative rewards. 2. You have already made the path goal clear to the member and also told about what the job requires. You need not say too many things about the job as this may decrease the interest in the work and deter the performance. 3. You must offer the reward to the member of the group who actually accomplishes the task. Your reward may be a praise or increase in the pay or promotion of the member to a higher position. Your judgment about the desirability of the member to a higher position is crucial. Your judgment about the desirability of the member's effort and the goal helps you to decide whether a reward can be given. It is very important for the leader to know every member as a person in order to use a style to get the best out of the member. For example, a task-oriented leader is preferred by a highly achievement-oriented member, whereas a person-oriented leader is preferred by a person who needs a good deal of affiliation with others. Similarly, it does good for the leader to know each situation to adjust his style of functioning for better results. With a clear task on hand, members feel satisfied if the leader is supporting them. They may not show a lot of output, but they are satisfied. On the other hand, with a less clear or more vague task on hand, members show more output if the leader directs them to work better. The member in this situation may not be very satisfied. In most of the Indian work settings, it is usually observed that members are quite dependent on the leader or the superior. They are also quite conscious of their status but have very little commitment to work. Singh in 1980 suggests that the leader who is task-oriented and nurtures the dependence of members on him is most effective in dealing with such members. He or she can get the work done in his nurturant task style from the members of his group. To a great extent, he knows characteristics of the members' work group that he or she utilizes in making the leadership style effective and getting the work done. From these discussions, it is clear that a leader is a person who has ability to persuade others to get the work done. You must have seen a person having the title of a leader. He or she may be very popular but may not have the ability of leadership. Many leaders try to become popular by agreeing with everyone, thus avoiding any kind of conflict. Their influence on the subordinate or members of the work group may not be very lasting. There are leaders who, by virtue of their ability to exercise authority and power, show better influence on members. It is therefore necessary for you to understand the authority of a leader and his sources of power, which help him to exercise influence on the subordinates. Modern theories of leadership. Charismatic leadership theories. Charismatic leadership is a throwback to the old conception of leaders as being those who, by the force of their personal abilities, are capable of having profound and extraordinary effects on followers. Although the charismatic concept of charisma goes as far back as the ancient Greeks and is cited in the Bible, its modern development is often attributed to the work of Robert House. On the basis of the analysis of political and religious leaders, House suggests that charismatic leaders are characterized by self-confidence and confidence in their associates, high expectations for associates, ideological vision, and the use of personal example. Followers of charismatic leaders identify with the leader and the mission of the leader, exhibit extreme loyalty and confidence in the leader, emulate the leader's values and behavior, and derive self-esteem from their relationship with the leader. Bass has extended the profile of charismatic leaders to include superior debating and persuasive skills as well as technical expertise and the fostering of attitudinal, behavioral, and emotional changes in their followers. Charismatic leaders will produce in followers performance beyond expectations as well as strong commitment to the leader and his or her mission. Research indicates that the impact of such charismatic leaders will be enhanced when the followers exhibit higher levels of self-awareness and self-monitoring, especially when observing the charismatic leader's behaviors and activities and when operating in a social network. House and his colleagues provide some support for charismatic theory, and research finds a positive effect on desirable outcomes such as cooperation and motivation, and recent conceptualization proposing that alternative forms or personalized versus socialized are relevant to successful implementation of mergers and acquisitions. However, as with the other leadership theories, complexities are found and more research is needed. For example, one study that assessed charismatic leader behaviors, individual level correlates and unit level correlates or outcomes in the military yielded only limited support for the theory's propositions and led the researchers to conclude that greater sensitivity to multiple constituencies of leaders is needed in those theories, and studies focused on charismatic leadership. Also, extensions of the theory are being proposed. For example, Conjo and Kalungo treat charisma as an attributional phenomenon and propose that it varies with the situation. Leader traits that foster charismatic attributions include self-confidence, impression management skills, social sensitivity, and empathy. Situations that promote charismatic leadership include a crisis requiring dramatic change or followers who are very dissatisfied with the status quo. For example, a study in a university setting revealed a situation in which a charismatic leader was able to successfully implement a technical change but at the same time suffered through major political turmoil which appeared to be side effects of the technical change. This suggests the studies of charismatic leadership must be considered in the context in which the leader operates, and the nature of the task or work being performed should be included in the analysis. Transformational leadership theory. Many years ago, James MacGregor Burns identified two types of political leadership: transactional and transformational. The more traditional transactional leadership involves an exchange relationship between leaders and followers, but transformational leadership is based more on leaders shifting the values, beliefs, and needs of their followers. More recently, the charisma characteristic of transformational leadership has been changed to idealize influence. This was done to not confuse transformational with charismatic leadership, which Bass treats as different theories. Although there are a number of contrasts between the two theories, the major differentiators are how followers are treated. Key to transformational leaders is that they seek to empower and elevate followers, that is, develop followers into leaders, while charismatic leaders may try to keep followers weak and dependent on them, that is, instill personal loyalty to the leader rather than developing them to attain ideals. In contrast to transactional leaders that believe in one of the ways, Avolier notes that transformational leaders, characterized by idealized leadership, inspiring leadership, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration, represent a cluster of interrelated styles aimed at: number 1. Changing situations for the better. Number 2. Developing followers into leaders. And number 3. Overhauling organizations to provide them with new strategic directions. Inspiring people by providing an energizing vision and high ideal for moral and ethical conduct. On the basis of his research findings, Bass concludes that in many instances, such as relying on passive management by exception, transactional leadership is a prescription for mediocrity, and that transformational leadership leads to superior performance in organizations facing demands for renewal and change. He suggests that fostering transformational leadership through policies of recruitment, selection, promotion, training, and development will pay off in the health, well-being, and effective performance of today's organizations. A meta-analysis of 39 studies found that the transformational behaviors of charisma or idealized influence, individualized consideration, and intellectual stimulation were related to leadership effectiveness in most studies. But, except for the contingent reward behaviors, the transactional leadership styles did not enhance leadership effectiveness, and this more positive impact of transformational over transactional leadership has held through the years. For example, a recent meta-analysis of 87 studies found Transformational leadership related to the composite of desired outcomes, that is, follower job satisfaction, follower leader satisfaction, follower motivation, leader job performance, group or organizational performance, and rated leader effectiveness. However, in this meta-analysis, contingent reward transactional leadership also related to the same composite of outcomes, and transformational leadership failed to significantly predict leader job performance. Servant leadership. A leadership approach coined by Robert K. Greenleaf in 1970, in which the leader has a desire to serve first and leads in such a way that those being served become healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous, more likely themselves to become servants. Servant leadership exhibits an approach that is more humanistic and relationally oriented. The development in humanistic approaches to leadership is taking more progressive steps currently. Servant leaders lead because they want to serve others, and they practically set examples before giving directions. The focus of servant leadership is on the others rather than upon self, and on understanding of the role of the leader as a servant. As a part of normative theory, servant leadership emphasizes the relationship of leaders and followers to each other and the importance of values on the process of leadership. Servant leadership has not received as much attention as other leadership theories in the literature, but in recent years, interest in it by the business organizations has grown. Servant leaders focus more on concern for their followers by creating conditions that enhance followers' well-being and functioning, and thereby facilitate the realization of a shared vision. Spears in 1998 read the book on servant leadership by Greenleaf, and then he briefed the characteristics of a servant leader. The 10 characteristics mentioned are listening, empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to the growth of people, and building community. Lastly, the motivational drivers in servant leadership include valuing people, developing people, and building community, displaying authenticity, and sharing leadership. Substitutes for leadership. Because of dissatisfaction with the progress of leadership theory and research in explaining and predicting the effects of leader behavior on performance outcomes, some of the basic assumptions about the importance of leadership per se have been challenged over the years. One alternative approach that received attention proposed that there may be certain substitutes for leadership that make leader behavior unnecessary and redundant, and neutralizers that prevent the leader from behaving in a certain way or that counteract the behavior. These substitutes or neutralizers can be found in subordinate, task, and organization characteristics. For example, craftspersons or professionals such as accountants or software engineers may have so much experience, ability, and training that they do not need instrumental or task leadership to perform well and be satisfied. Those employees who don't particularly care about organizational rewards, for example professors or musicians, will neutralize both supportive or relationship and instrumental or task leadership attempts. Tasks that are highly structured and automatically provide feedback substitute for instrumental or task leadership, and those that are intrinsically satisfying, for example teaching, do not need supportive or relationship leadership. There are also a number of organizational characteristics that substitute for or neutralize leadership. Authentic leadership. Although there are a number of newly emerging theories such as servant leadership, political leadership, contextual leadership, e-leadership, primal leadership, relational leadership, positive leadership, shared leadership, and responsible leadership, in these times of unprecedented challenges facing organization leaders, we, that is, Avolio and Luthans and our colleagues working with the Leadership Institute at the University of Nebraska, believe that authentic leadership is a needed approach. Drawing from Luthen's work on positive organizational behavior and psychological capital and Avolio's work on transformational and full-range leadership, recently proposed a specific model of authentic leadership development. Authenticity has its roots in ancient Greek philosophy that goes as to thine own self be true, and descriptive words include genuine, transparent, reliable, trustworthy, real, and veritable. Positive psychologists refer to authenticity as both owning one's personal experiences, thoughts, emotions, or belief, the real me inside, and acting in accord with the true self, that is, behaving and expressing what you really think and believe. Authentic leadership in organizations can be defined as a process that draws from both positive psychological capacities and a highly developed organizational context, which results in both greater self-awareness and self-regulated positive behaviors on the part of leaders and associates, fostering positive self-development. The authentic leader is confident, hopeful, optimistic, resilient, transparent, moral or ethical, future-oriented, and gives priority to developing associates to be leaders. And the last is abusive leadership. Abusive leaders exercise power to serve their own interest by dominating and authoritative ways to achieve what they want. They manipulate others to gain their purposes. They want to win at any cost. Although they know how to show that they are loyal and working for the organization, actually they are preoccupied to be number one. Barron and Newman in 1998 explain that abusive behavior is the behavior which is harmful to others. Ashforth in 1994 and 1997 defines petty tyranny as managers' use of power and authority cruelly, erratically, and unkindly. He finds 6 dimensions of a petty tyrant, and they are behaving in an illogical and conceited manner, putting down subordinate, lacking kindness for other, forcing divergence ruling, discouraging inventiveness, and using non-contingent penalty. Tepper in 2000 defines abusive supervision as the perception of subordinates about the hostile verbal and non-verbal behavior of their supervisors, which does not include physical abuse. He feels that supervisors may not mean to cause harm and are forced to act abusively in order to achieve some other goal. Successful versus effective leader. As we have discussed previously, leadership is the activity of influencing people to strive willingly for group objectives. It is the ability to persuade others to get something done. So the leader attempts to have some effect on the behavior of another, which we call attempted leadership. The response to this attempt may or may not be successful. A basic responsibility of managers in any work organization is to get the work done with and through people. The success of managers is measured by the output or productivity of the group they lead. Therefore, we should clearly distinguish between successful versus effective leader. For example, A's attempt to influence B to do a certain job can be judged successful or unsuccessful. B does the job for the reason that A has position of power and he controls the reward and punishment. Then A's attempted leadership is successful. A's style of leadership may not be compatible with B's expectation, and B is made hostile towards A and does the job only because of A's position power. Then we can say A has been successful but not effective. B does the job because A can punish him for not doing it or reward him for doing it. B's own needs are not being accomplished by satisfying the goals of the A, the leader for the organization. On the other hand, A's attempted leadership leads to a successful response and B does the job because he wants to do it and finds it rewarding, then we may say A has both position power as well as personal power. B respects A. B is consistent with some personal goals, and B sees personal goals as being accomplished by the job he does for A. We can then say A's leadership is effective. We should try to understand the difference between success and effectiveness. Success has to do with how the individual or the group behaves. Effectiveness describes the internal state or predisposition of an individual or a group and is thus attitudinal in nature. You may have noticed that individuals who are interested in success tend to emphasize their position power. They use close supervision of the work of their associates. If they have to be effective, they have to use their personal power as well as their general supervision. Examples of successful and effective individuals can be noticed if one understands the underlying acceptance of the superior by the subordinate. In the examination hall, a certain kind of teachers fear that if they leave the hall for a while, the students will indulge in copying and exchanging notes. There are yet another kind of teachers who leave the examination hall, but the students never behave differently. Let us work at family level, which is a less formal organization. Parents can be successful and effective by using their position and personal power. The children easily accept the goals of the family as their own. Parents who use position power and a closer supervision are likely to face a kind of revolt or disobeying attitude among their children not accepting the goals set by the parents for the family. With the absence of the parents, the whole house becomes topsy-turvy. This can never happen in a family where parents create a good deal of trust between them and the children by exercising their personal power of love and discipline. The children in the absence of parents do not behave differently than if their parents were there. Leaders are successful but ineffective when they have a short-run influence over the behavior of others. They must try to be both successful and effective to have long-term influence for leading others towards productivity and developing the organization as a whole. The most important conclusion from the discussion so far is that the managers must understand their own abilities and their impact on others.
You were listening to the audiobook by the School of Management Studies, IGNOU, for MBA program. Course code MMPC-001, Management Functions and Organizational Processes. Course Coordinator, Professor Srilata, School of Management Studies, IGNOU. Voice over by Harpreet Kaur. Edited by Tarannum Jahan. Program assisted by Jagbandhu Jana. Program produced by Manoj Kumar Singh. This program was brought to you by Electronic Media Production Center of Indira Gandhi National Open University.